Yeah, we'll do it. We'll make it work. I'll figure it out. YOLO!
It's not a bird, it's not a plane, it's Superhero Slate. It's a modern podcast where we talk about everything that's great, like movies, TV, superheroes. It's Superhero Slate. Oh yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Superhero Slate, the show where we run down the latest superhero entertainment news.
We love TV, movies, and superheroes, so let's talk it all out.
My name is Chris Dillard.
And my name is Mike Royer.
And this week, you can guess it, Superhero Slate is social distancing itself from everything.
Yes.
We've been doing this for, how old are we now? 30-something years old? We're pros. We know how to handle ourselves on lockdown, Mike. Like we always do. And Black Widow gave us its final trailer, which I think you might agree got kind of lost in the other news this week. Kind of pushed
Definitely.
at the front of the week. And the box office sadly takes a huge tumble this weekend and more.
Wow. I don't know if I want to say a banner week, because I'm not exactly sure what a banner is supposed to entail, but this has been really intense. It's a very strange moment just in the existence of humanity when the entire planet can kind of just share common ground on, something, whether it's like a tragedy or whether it's, any sort of a news event. So that's just really weird on itself, that just, if we have any international listeners, like, sometimes we talk about like American holidays and like time off and, things like that might affect the box office over here in America. Now we're just talking about this global thing. It weirdly bringing people together under this, I guess, banner of fear, if I want to bring that word back in.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'm going to be honest, I don't understand the toilet paper thing yet. I'm working on it. It's few and far between. But, I was able to, I wasn't able to, I didn't even think about, I had to go to the grocery store this week, right? Just regular grocery store trip. But it wasn't too bad. I went to a Walmart and it wasn't horrible, believe it or not. But yeah, I've heard it's getting wild out there in some places. So you'll make sure.
Out here on the West Coast, it's like fight or flight. I went to it is the St. Patrick's Day holiday weekend here in the States, and I don't know if the date shifts when you're actually over in Ireland or not. So I wanted to make a shepherd's pie. I was like, I celebrate the season. Irish food is just very unctuous, and you really want comfort food in these times. So I was like, all right, I got to go out and I got to get a couple ingredients. I don't have all of the stuff at my place right now. I got to go get some of it. So this was on Friday. So I head to one grocery store. I can't even park in the parking lot. This is like the middle of the day because I was working from home, so I couldn't even get into the parking lot. I got so frustrated. So I went to another neighboring grocery store, was able to get into that parking lot, but I was at this grocery store for one specific ingredient, and I was going to get the rest at the grocery store that's closest to our place, right across the street. Another parking lot fiasco that was a nightmare. And then when I walked in, there's no potatoes anywhere to be found. I hear people even asking for potatoes. No, we don't have any potatoes. They don't have any onions. All the bread is gone. So I just gave up. Like, I literally can't even make a shepherd's pie. So I'm not too worried overall in the long term. Everybody, obviously, all the news came down on like Wednesday and Thursday of these travel bans, of the recommended isolation. So everybody just kind of ran at the stores all at once. I'm guessing things will start to normalize next week. So hopefully people out there stop panicking. But yeah, the thing that was the most annoying about the toilet paper, Chris, is when all of this came down, we were just actually out of toilet paper. Like we needed to actually buy more. So we got some rolls from our neighbor across the street. Thank you, Maria and Susie, for loaning us that toilet paper. And
the real MVPs.
Yes. And when I was at the pharmacy, I was at CVS the other day picking up a prescription, and so I was in their kind of prescription waiting area, which is in the back of the store, right next to where they store all of their products. Beyond that, that double door, and I see this lady roll out this gigantic cart of toilet paper. So I just got up and I followed her to the front of the store where she was just placing the toilet paper on the the ground, and I was like, I feel like I just wanted to tell everybody in the store that was looking at me, I am not a crazy person. I literally don't have toilet paper. This is the normal time of the month where we would buy more toilet paper in my household. So everyone, I just bought one packaging. There was a limit of 2. I could have bought 2. I just bought 1. So
Wow.
People, don't be crazy. I've been reading stories about people that went like state to state, bought all the hand sanitizer, and is trying to like mark it up on Amazon. Those people are the worst. I hate you, and I hope you have very inconvenient 2020s.
This is going to tie in great to one of my things that happened this week, Mike. Emerald City Comic Con was canceled. I think last weekend, maybe we talked about it. And with Emerald City Comic Con being, I think, the 3rd or 4th biggest convention in the country, they have a very large number of exclusive Funko Pop vinyls for everything. Okay, people buy these things in bulk and then put them online, and the same thing people are doing hand sanitizer from. So when I say, hey, there's a convention exclusive pop vinyl, I'm trying to find it, I sound like a crazy person, but I'm not. It's really the same situation that you're going through hand sanitizer and toilet paper right now. I'm like, this is it, but it's more for non-necessity things. It's more for fun things. But I did get some cool Funkos this week, Mike. I will tell you right now. I got a white cloaked Emperor Doctor Doom looking dude. That one's pretty solid.
Doctor Doom looking dude. It is Doctor Doom, right?
It is Doctor Doom, but like it's not the standard green one you're used to. He's all in white. Because he goes by Emperor Doom or God Doom in this form.
All right.
One of the coolest ones is it a GameStop exclusive? It's Thanos, the casual Thanos from Endgame, and his arm is removable.
Oh,
with the gauntlet, so it's like you can take his arm off.
Is it on the packaging? Is it actually called Casual Thanos?
I believe so. Yeah.
I love the idea. Like, what do we call this? Well, I don't know. He's pretty chill right now. He's about to lose his arm, so I'd say it's pretty casual.
Pretty casual, yeah. And his arm, I don't know if it's magnetized or if it pops on there, but it comes right off. It's really cool looking. They also they're starting to do some more X-Men things with the X-Men license being back at Marvel. So there's a Gambit pop now if you're big into Gambit, and Toad was another one if you're familiar with the Toad character. He was played in the X-Men first movie by the guy who played Darth Maul. Can't think of his name off the top of my head. Someone's yelling at me in the distance. And lastly, non-Marvel, I get my yearly non-Marvel Funko. The Grand Budapest Hotel finally came out with their 2 Funkos of Zero and then the main guy. So I'm very excited to get those in.
Great. Are they very very colorful? Do they come with any accessories?
No accessories usually on the Funkos, but they are. It is a 2-pack, so I know that's pretty cool. For those 2. The other ones, Gambit's classic comic Gambit, the one you remember from the X-Men TV show, right? Not the X-Men Origins Wolverine version that nobody remembers happened. So I'm pretty cool. I'm pretty excited to get this cool.
You're saying it's definitely not the Channing Tatum Funko Gambit pop that in an alternate universe might be out right now.
yeah. Also, I think that movie gives me real New Mutants vibes. We'll talk about that later as well. But yeah, I think that was cool because they did an online version of the Funko release rather than a convention release. So that was interesting to see how they handled that in this trying times, Mike. But I got to watch 2 movies this week also on the opposite ends of the spectrum here. And we talked about it earlier last week. I saw it after the show. I went and saw Onward, the latest Pixar film with Chris Pratt and Tom Holland.
The last movie to ever be released in theaters, depending on how the next weeks go. Exactly.
The last Bloodshot came out this week, Mike. I think no one was going to see it anyways. But Onward it's a okay Pixar film, but honestly, I really expected more out of this movie. Being set in this, if Dungeons and Dragons were kind of real thing, and they played Dungeons and Dragons and you have the Jack Black version of Chris Pratt driving his van around on this mission to make their dad more than just legs for a day. And it's got some touching moments in it and very heartfelt, but honestly, there are better Pixar films, Mike. I don't know why this one kind of fell to the wayside, but I think the last few were a little more enjoyable.
Yeah, well, I mean, before the coronavirus kind of really attacked the box office in full force, I think this one got a pretty soft reception when it came to box office dollars. Now, of course, whether it is or isn't part of the pandemic, Disney's going to use that as an excuse no matter what. If anything underperforms, really any studio has that option. If a movie performs bad, they can just blame it on environmental outside sources. But yeah, I saw that Onward kind of did underperform. I think if you look at the chart of all of the Pixar movies, I think it does have the worst opening weekend. But also Coco also had a really bad, or not bad, but it had a relatively low opening weekend, and then it gained and picked up steam and did gangbusters everywhere else that it went. But it doesn't look like now the path moving forward. I don't think Onward's going to have that chance. So, I mean, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but it does make me wonder how long is it going to take until a film like Onward shows up on Disney Plus.
Yeah, it could speed along, it could not. I mean, it's interesting because the other Pixar film they're coming out with another this year, Soul. We don't have it in our notes here, but this trailer came out Thursday. Why would you put the trailer out a week after its own production company released a big movie?
Yeah, you think you would have put it in front of Onward, right?
Yeah, like, hey, make sure Pixar, this isn't the only Pixar movie this year, but I think it's an okay film. I think it's just generic, and, a lot of the ones I do enjoy from Pixar are original stories, and this one didn't feel original. It felt derivative of something bigger at the end of the day, so... maybe like a never-ending story kind of thing. So
yeah, I'm kind of curious because I did watch that trailer for Soul, and it does make me wonder, is that going to feel derivative of Inside Out? Just because it feels like, it's definitely along the same tones. It's about kind of like this other metaphysical world of like the person. So I don't know. We'll have to see where Pixar goes moving forward. Either way, no matter what happens, Pixar has never really had the best track record for cutting trailers. I think in both of our opinions. So the new Soul trailer that came out was, it was okay, but I don't know, for some reason they never just really grabbed me. It seems like they're using like just different sets of kind of just rules and landmarks when they're cutting their trailers. I don't know. Maybe things will change now that Disney is just more in charge of everything than usual. I don't know.
Yeah, it could be, or they'll just continue never to cut trailers for us. They'll cut trailers for children, and we will never get a good trailer, but possibly a good movie.
Are you trying to tell me these animated movies are for children, Chris, and not specifically for a 30-year-old man?
Specifically, yes.
Okay.
A childless 30-year-old man, indeed, is not for you. The other movie I got to watch is on the other end of the spectrum. If you want have you ever seen the movie Crank, Mike?
I have not seen Crank, no.
Okay, it's that Jason Statham, very balls-to-the-wall action sequence. Unbelievable scenario, but man, is that like a popcorn turn-your-brain-off kind of thriller. Then Guns Akimbo with Daniel Radcliffe is for you. This is, we've talked about seeing this photo before where Daniel Radcliffe has the guns in his hands and he's in the bathrobe and the bear slippers, right? That is from the filming of this movie. And it is a world where... hyper-violence, they go and pick these losers and then they put them in this, fight to the death kind of scenario across the world against other people, and the winner, wins and moves on to the next thing. And Daniel Radcliffe, to put it nicely, he pissed off the wrong people and was put into this situation that he didn't choose to be in. And we watched it last night, in the evening, and I was like, I didn't know what to think going in, but I'm like, it's pretty all right for... just turning your brain off and seeing this stupid action movie.
It's a good quarantine movie.
It is a great palate cleanser. If you want something that's really weird and I think trying to make some social commentary about people being on their phones and watching too much live streams, but at the same time, this was wild stuff, so I think it was a good time. The
tone of the movie kind of reminds me of, I haven't watched it yet, but the tone. Have you seen Clive Owen's Shoot 'Em Up? Movie?
It is like Shoot 'Em Up, but I think more towards outlandishness of that. But like in that one, Shoot 'Em Up, he is very specific on what he's doing. Mm-hmm. In this other one, Daniel Radcliffe has no idea what he's doing.
Oh, man, Shoot 'Em Up was so good. I fondly think about that movie every once in a while, and I go, does anybody remember this movie?
Oh, yeah.
With the carrot in the eye? I think that's probably the most iconic moment from that film.
Was it the sex scene in the tank while they're shooting people around them as
well?
Oh,
yeah, there was a sex scene in the tank.
While shooting people. That one's off the wall. But I think this leans more into Crank, where it literally... it delivers you into the movie within the first 5 minutes, then the gas pedal was down the whole time.
Yeah, the way you're describing it is I'm imagining kind of like the 30-second TV spot that tells people to buy the movie or go see it, and then there's a quote that splashes on the screen from like some indie movie blog that says high octane. That seems like the type of quote that this movie is looking to put on their poster.
It would. If you get a chance to watch it, and it's only an hour and a half, which is great, one and done, it's definitely interesting. So I recommend if you're looking for something fun and stupid.
And you might be able to trick your significant other into watching it because it has Harry Potter in it.
Yeah, Harry Potter.
That's gonna be my plan. I'm just gonna tell my wife, yeah, Daniel Radcliffe's in it. I know you really like him, so we're gonna go watch this. And he's got my wife's gonna be like, wait, there's guns stapled to his hand. What's going on here? Too late. Yeah. We already hit play. It's only 90 minutes long. Just hold on.
Yeah, just here's some popcorn. Just munch on it, man. Just go for it. So, that's what I recommend. But Mike, you get to work from home. I'm not on a work from home basis yet, but you have been. What does that look like for you? How have you been filling in some of your free time? And without going to looking for shepherd's pie.
Basically, between projects and between emails, I get the ability to turn on my PlayStation and download stuff. And if anybody's been listening to this podcast for the last couple of years, you can tell me and Chris like a good deal, and there's no better deal than free. And right now there's a free demo for Final Fantasy VII, which I think is pretty cool in general for like the kind of the current state of video games, because right now either you pay full price for a game or it's like a freemium and you get the whole game. There's really not a whole lot of market anymore for like demos of games. Like they just want you to buy the game. They just hype it up enough in marketing and they don't even need to put out a demo. But the really cool thing about this is I very specifically remember playing the original Final Fantasy demo because the first generation of PlayStation was all about the demo disc. You would go to Papa John's or Pizza Hut and they would give you a freaking demo disc for video games with your pizza, which is just crazy. You would get like, if you bought like 7 2 liters of Pepsi, you could like send in for a demo disc. They were just
that Tomb Raider man.
They were just giving them out for any reason. So there was a Final Fantasy demo on one of those discs, and I think the greatest thing about this Final Fantasy VII remake demo, it is the exact same part of the game that you're demoing. It starts off getting off the train, and then it ends with the timed escape after you blow up the reactor. But now you're playing in this whole new gameplay style. So I've heard from other people that there is a version where you can still play turnstile. I'm not sure. I didn't look into that. I was more curious about the new gameplay, because if you're going to remake a game, give me something new and interesting. So I'm going to play this new kind of real-time strategy role-playing game, and they start you off pretty slow. They're like, oh, basically you're just going to be hitting square to slash these people up. Okay, I'm managing that. There's a new wave of enemies. Okay, now you can dodge and you can roll and you can block. Okay, that's great. They're showing me how to use spells. When you go into the menu to use items or use spells, I thought it was just pausing all of the action, but if you look at your screen, you've kind of just slowed everything down like you're like a speedster from The Flash. You can still see your enemies moving, but just like a little bit, and if somebody fired a bullet at you, you can just slowly see it come to you, so you have like a little bit of extra time to kind of make these finer tuned decisions. And then about halfway through the demo, you get people added to your party, which is when things start to get a little hectic. I would think once you play the full game, this stuff will be hoisted on you a little bit slower. But I had to like swap over to Barrett so I could use his gun for long range attacks, and then I would have to go back to Cloud so I could use a sword to fight this. So it was very crazy. It was very hectic, very action packed. I'll use like the same words that we were using for Guns Akimbo. High octane.
Oh, high octane energy, man. That's awesome.
But man, because I knew once I got towards the end of this demo, I was going to be fighting like a big spider robot with a tail, because that's what happens in the original demo down by the reactor. And sure enough, I get down there and man, shit hits the fan. Pardon my French. But now instead of just normal turn-based style, there's like these 2 platforms I have to run against. The freaking spider bot flies on the wall. Then I need to switch to my guns and hit him long range. The shield comes up. I got to shoot down the shield, and I got to switch over to the Cloud, and I got to start slicing them. And then this whole battle like itself took me like 25 minutes of going back and forth. I used all of my potions. I'm out of potions. I keep dying. Oh wait, Barrett has a cure spell. What does cure do? I don't have any poisons. Oh wait, no, cure restores my health. Okay, so as long as I have have ethers. I can get my health up. So I'm going back and forth. I'm just like using every last resource I have to kill it. So once I finally kill this thing, it actually feels like a very high degree of success just like flowing through your body. It's that feeling of accomplishment, like really achieving like a task. So it was really fun. I can't imagine just how like one of these final boss battles will go in this game, because I played Final Fantasy VII way back in the day, and I got that, you know, that final boss at the end is like this gigantic monster, and I can't imagine how long it's going to take to beat something like that if the first boss takes me 25 minutes to beat. So I can't imagine just these really crazy long out battles that you got to plan for, swapping between people. So yeah, if you have a PlayStation, go check out the Final Fantasy VII demo. It's really crazy.
And how much is that demo?
It's free, baby.
Absolutely free. That's how I like it. So I'm going to give that a try. I'm going to be honest. I'm going to tell you right now, I've never played Final Fantasy VII. I started with 8. So, but I did watch a lot of these demos whenever they had like when E3 was a thing and not canceled. I watched the demos on it, so it looks very exciting. So I'm hoping to get that downloaded.
Well, also, I've never really, I don't really know exactly what this style of game is called, because it's not turn-based combat. It's like free roaming combat, but it, you know, it's not like a Sekiro or like a Jedi Fallen Order really type of thing. Like when enemies pop up on the screen, you have engaged in battle and you're able to like draw out your sword. So it's almost kind of like a third-person slasher. I don't know.
I think Final Fantasy 15 took this kind of approach, and I think possibly even 13 a little bit did. So yeah, it's a newer take on the turn-based without having to be completely turn-based. But as we talked about, you know, again in our group chats, there's classic mode where you can go back to the turn-based if you're
I mean, the graphics are beautiful. You're dealing with the original Final Fantasy VII story, which I would say is pretty relevant in today's day and age. The story's not too hard to follow. This was kind of, you know, sometimes Japanese storytelling can get really crazy and intense and hard to follow. I mean, just play any Metal Gear game. But I would say this, when this game was made, the stories were a little bit more toned down, easier to follow. So I think I'm actually going to pick this one up. It seems like it's going to be in its several different parts. So the first part is going to be taking place just within the confines of the city, but I think I'm okay with that.
And, you know, this is one of the things we always talk about, remake versus remastered. This is not a remaster. Like, Mike played The Last of Us remastered, which is the same story, same gameplay, just higher fidelity graphics. This is a truly Final Fantasy VII in a different style, with different gameplay, with different story beats and stuff like that. So
yeah, I mean, speaking of Last of Us, we don't usually cover all of these things on the show, but Last of Us has been picked up by HBO with the creators of Chernobyl to work on a series, which is pretty crazy. If you're ever curious about writing, whether it's for television or films, or you just want to hear Hollywood writers chat, there's a podcast called Script Notes, where the creator and the showrunner for Chernobyl is one of the co-hosts, and he, on the most recent episode, he talked very briefly about the process of kind of getting the Last of Us TV show together. And he's kind of a gamer himself, so he knew how important and special the storytelling was in The Last of Us, and he thought this was a project that was never going to come to fruition, just because it's such the cream of the crop when it comes to storytelling in video games, The Last of Us. So I guess at one point in time there was a feature in development for The Last of Us, but he agreed that a series is the best way to go, because it's all about the development of a story and a relationship that grows over time, which works really well for a series.
And like I've told Mike before, don't get your hopes up too hard, because look at the Nathan Drake series, how that's going for everybody.
The only caveat I would say is, since this is HBO/AT&T/Warner Media money that is launching a streaming service and will need content, there might be enough money and force of will to actually get this one made. But yes, like Chris has said, don't get your hopes up when it comes to adaptations of any video game.
Yeah, my Halo series has been working on for like 5 years. I haven't seen nothing of that yet. So.
I mean, I know you have alternate means of getting getting your content, but would a Halo show be enough for you to open up the registration screen over at Showtime and get a Showtime subscription?
Yes, it would for the period that show is actually available.
Wow, you hear that, folks? That's enough. Wow, Halo's enough to get Chris to subscribe to a streaming service.
Exactly. Well, I bought. They did the episodes for with they had Mike Coulter, the guy who played Luke Cage in a show. Several years ago when Halo 5 was coming out, and they I think it was on Xbox, and you had to buy it or something like that. And I bought into it. You know, you support the things you like, Mike. You support the things you like. But we're just killing time here because our news this week was really shot really bad. Because we're gonna go through, and I'm gonna talk a little bit about the what we had with the coronavirus, the COVID-19 stuff, all the cancellations going on.
Man, I mean, this is a little inside baseball, but the group chat all week was just nothing but posting updates of what was canceled. Like, it seemed like every hour there was something new that came down the pipeline.
Exactly, and this is one of those things where we'll talk about here. Where the top of this is for the nerds. The bottom parts where the athletic people are starting to suffer. Like, we're all suffering together in this, Mike. No one's off the hook. The first biggest one, the first casualty I think of this was ECCC, Emerald City Comic Con in Seattle. Again, one of the top 5 Comic Cons. They rescheduled for August, so they actually got to reschedule. They didn't cancel, so that's really good for them. What will that look like in August? Will this permanently shift everything 6 months forever, or is this only for this year?
Yeah, that's a good question. And also, this is an interesting time for these shows and experiences to kind of experiment, because what if ECC goes really, really well in August, and maybe the con schedule just kind of gets shifted down the line and be like, hey, things went really well in August for us. It was really easy to schedule lots of things. So I don't know, maybe some good will come out of all of this. But yeah, just last week we were talking on the show where we were trying to track Emerald City Comic Con. The last we spoke, they were offering free refunds, and they just had way too many. They had way too many free refunds, and they had to make a decision. So, but now it makes a little bit more sense in the climate of everything else being canceled. So this was the right call to make. The gathering would be too large.
I mean, we barely missed it for C2E2, Mike. Like, had that been a week later, I'd been a little concerned.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all if C2E2 would have been canceled if it happened just a week or so later. And also, it's good to note, just within the context of the landmass of the United States, ECC is up in Seattle, and I believe, I haven't looked at the statistics recently, but I think that was like one of the first states hit, and I think it still is one of the hardest states hit when it comes to testing confirmation up there. So it makes sense that they had to make a decision maybe a little bit harsher than somebody else might have to do.
Yeah, exactly. But in that regard, not only and we'll talk about some more conventions in a little bit, but I think the biggest news here is Disney stepped up. They're closing their parks, Mike, which I think this is the 4th time in history they've ever closed their parks. But they also pushed back two really solid moneymaker films in the next couple weeks here, including Mulan, which would have been a huge moneymaker, and the new Mutants movie, which, can't catch a break no matter which way it goes.
Wow, yeah, this is just really crazy. So if we want to point to Mulan here first, this one makes a lot of sense. Even if the virus even if somehow it never could have made it to the States, if it never would have been a problem here, I mean, they were going to get all of this from international box office revenue, and like China has been in lockdown for like 2 months now. So it made sense that Mulan at least could have been postponed internationally, and we could have got our U.S. debut. They even had their premiere. Like, I follow some people on Instagram that were like at the premiere party. So I was like, oh, well, this is awkwardly timed, because I think that might have been like on Tuesday, possibly Wednesday, so they got in just under the gun there when it came to large gatherings of groups for sure. But man, New Mutants is the story for sure. The thing I was thinking in the back of my head was, if Disney really, really wants to put this movie under the rug and just let it vanish, they would just let it come out just kind of like Bloodshot, and no one would really remember it, and we would forget all about it. But now it's kind of tied to COVID-19, so it makes me wonder, was New Mutants canceled just because Disney has to treat all of its releases equally so it doesn't look like it's playing favorites? Or there's this little seed, Chris. There's this little seed growing in the back of my head that's starting to think, is New Mutants a little bit more than what we believe it is? Is there something in this movie that's going to grow into the MCU and we just don't know it yet? I mean, I was looking at the Wikipedia article for this movie because this movie needs a Wikipedia page at this point in time just to follow all the craziness with production. And early on in the production process, I had kind of forgotten about this, but the creator of the film was saying that he really wanted this movie to kind of be standalone in the vein of like Deadpool. Obviously not as fantastical and as rated R as Deadpool, but he really wanted to set this in its kind of own universe and not attach it to any other mutants. So it does make me wonder, since this movie was so isolated from the very beginning, maybe it does possibly have a future. So I don't think maybe a lot of the characters might have a future in the MCU. It seems like since this movie is so old and they have all grown up and move on to other things and they're making other deals and contracts out there in Hollywood, maybe one, maybe two of them could possibly pop up future in the MCU. But it seems like maybe if we just introduce the idea, this nugget of mutants, if it's isolated enough, who knows, maybe something could stem off from this. But it just makes me think, Chris, if this was such a throwaway movie, why didn't they just either just release it and put it out there in the world, or maybe we could talk about some earned will of maybe just dropping it on a streaming service, just like, hey, we couldn't put this out in theaters, but here it is on Hulu. I
don't think so. I think there's more to this movie in terms of like it's not probably as bad of a movie as we're expecting. Fox made some real bad stuff, but this guy seems to have been able to make a movie he wanted to make, rather than what was that last one we got, Dark Phoenix, which just sucked the wind out of any sails any of those X-Men movies had going for it. Apocalypse didn't help it either. But maybe this is actually a half decent or better film that they're like, hey, you know what, there is an opportunity here. A lot of the public doesn't understand the MCU movies. They're going to go watch a mutant movie no matter what. So the average viewer can still make us some money on this film, and we can release it later. I don't think everyone wants everything to come to streaming because it's not in theaters. They have to make money somehow. We talk about this, but it's on our notes. But Disney moved up the Rise of Skywalker digital release. It was supposed to be later this week, and they put it on yesterday because people are home. They're likely to buy movies. So. I think if anything, it would go to a paid first to recoup some money. That way, it's not a complete write-off. But I still think this is going to come out in theaters. When will it fill up that late summer we were talking about not having? What day will it pick? Will every movie get shifted around and everything get released later? Are we going to see more competing weekends? I don't know at this point.
I mean, that is the huge question right now because. A lot of the dates seem to be really, really flexible just with everything when it comes to the virus. So, like I said, I am working from home, and a lot of other really well-known organizations are working from home, like Twitter and all of these big tech companies up in the Bay Area have all been slotted to work from home. But we haven't really seen a whole lot of dates of when people are supposed to return, and I think that's telling for a lot of things in general. I mean, my wife works in the entertainment industry. She's working on a TBS show right now, and she's just hearing nothing. She's just hearing nothing but productions being halted, people working from home, which can be difficult for TV production in general, which is why a lot of this stuff is just being halted and delayed. Like, production has stopped on Riverdale, which is a show that only has like 3 episodes left to do in its season, and it does make you wonder how long will that show get delayed for. Are people just going to take a break for 2 weeks because theoretically that's how long you should be quarantining yourself for a virus, and then the whole machine will kick back up and just things are going to air on television 2 weeks late? I mean, I've checked out some like predictive models that have been on like the New York Times put out like a predictive model of the virus, and they say it's supposed to be peaking in July, which is really crazy. So are these interventions supposed to be lasting through the summer? So yeah, that's a really, really good question. I mean, one film that's took the biggest delay out there and pushed it all the way to the next calendar year is the next Fast and the Furious movie, which was supposed to be coming out very soon. And they didn't just push it till October. They didn't push it to the end of the summer. They pushed it to, I believe, Fast and Furious 10's release slot, which was supposed to be next year, which I didn't realize Fast 10 was supposed to come out so soon, which is really crazy. So I guess maybe Fast 9 maybe was supposed to be kind of like a subtle part 1, possibly. So
yeah, I think that's what they've always said. They were a part 1 and part 2 kind of deal. But I mean, like a whole year. You know, what can you do in a year? Do you instead of Fast 10, do you just put it out 6 months later rather than a year, because you can technically make it in the same amount of time?
Yeah, I mean, maybe you give people the Fast franchise, maybe you give them a treat of possibly releasing 2 movies in 1 year, a part 1 and a part 2. I don't know, because if production has just pretty much halted in Hollywood for everything, part 2, you know, Fast and Furious 10 maybe can't even get off the ground and start filming because of all this mayhem, you know?
But if you push everything back a year, I don't think it'd be a year before they started filming if they would normally get ready for Fast 10. I'm just waiting for the next what's the next domino to fall, Mike? I mean, the first one, you know, conventions canceling. The second one, all production stops. Now, when do these things actually get to be released? And does that take the place of something else, or does like we said earlier, what's that shift look like? And you know, are we going to see a permanent change because of these shifts? Because what was it? I think was Bond was the first movie to say no, thank you. We're going to November.
Yeah, which we said last week kind of fits with some other James Bond releases, so it's not too out of the ordinary for James Bond. I mean, I was looking forward to going to the theaters. I believe it was this weekend, right, to see The Quiet Place 2.
Yes.
I mean, we were going to be taking precautions. We were going to be like, okay, we're not going to get any concessions because that's interacting with people at a counter. We're just going to walk in and we're not going to touch anything. We're going to sit down in the chair, you know, bring in some hand sanitizing wipes to wipe down the chairs. I saw a headline that AMC is limiting its ticket sales, and they're cutting their theater sales, I believe, in half.
Yeah, 50%, because I was going to go watch Bloodshot, then I was like, I don't think it's a good time to go. But half the seats are marked off, so you can only get, you can only sell half as many tickets as they were before.
And my local theater that we go to is a Cinemark, so I went online to see how they were doing it. The same thing, they were reducing their occupancy. But the weird thing that they did is they lifted their assigned seating. So basically, they're only going to sell half the number of seats in any given auditorium, but it's open seating now, which I do not like. But I guess there's less competition. Definitely, even if you think you're going to sell all the tickets, that's still only 50% full. More than likely, these auditoriums are only going to be like maybe 20% full with people not going out in public. So it makes me wonder, if you have the ability to do like assigned seating in a digital map situation, it seems like you should just go in there and be like, okay, well, nobody can buy these seats and nobody can buy these seats, but they can buy the seats in the middle. So I don't know. But yeah, make sure you're staying 6 feet away from people if you're going to a movie theater. And I guess
I prefer that anyway, so that's easy for me.
Yeah, and also you hate movie theater snacks because they make too much noise, so this is the perfect time for you, Chris.
Yeah, I know. I wish they were releasing movies during this to watch.
Man, this really has to suck for theaters because they make all of their money from concession stands, and that's the one thing that people would probably be avoiding from a movie theater experience if they wanted to kind of stay quarantined.
Yeah, or just don't go to the movie theater. I think people who go in, they're going to get snacks anyway. I don't think anyone who's going to the theater is worried about quarantine, because that can fit a lot of bodies in one place.
Yeah, I mean, listen, what's the biggest complaint everyone has had about the streaming wars and all these different options is there's so much to watch and not enough time. Well, now the equation is starting to invert, where you have so much more time. I mean, I'm working through the Clone Wars. I started back up on Adventure Time just yesterday because I'm so close to finishing Adventure Time. I only got like one season left, so I kicked that back up again. I think before we started recording the podcast, I said I might finally go back and finish season 2 of Westworld, since season 3 is airing tonight. So if you got a lot of time, I mean, I suppose you could do things productive with your life, but I think I might just watch TV.
Yeah, well, must be fucking nice, Mike. On that note, also, other things are being canceled, such as the Razzie Awards have been postponed, possibly canceled this year, for the worst movie ever. Awards. WonderCon Anaheim. That's another big one in California, right? That's I think is that in San Diego as well? That's the other.
No, WonderCon is actually very, very close to Disneyland.
Okay.
Sometimes D23 will use the same convention center for, D23, or I think some Star Wars celebrations have been held there. That was kind of a very telling one because the governor of California, when he released his precautions on canceling gatherings larger than 250 people, he said specifically that Disneyland is its own weird beast and these rules don't apply to Disneyland, but it only took them about 24 hours for Disney to go, nope, we got to close. So it makes sense that WonderCon would be canceled. So, yeah, because they're all kind of within that same city. That city is really going to be taking a screeching halt down there.
And WonderCon is the other half of Comic-Con International. This is like they have two conventions. WonderCon is one of them. San Diego Comic-Con is the other one. So they will definitely, they're tied to that. Cinemacon, which, you may not think of. We get a lot of movie trailers at Cinemacon. We had a lot of leaks there usually. That's canceled, so that was kind of disappointing for me.
Do you know when Cinemacon usually takes place?
I think it's April, mid-April.
It looks like possibly the end of March. I Google it. It's hard to Google when things are supposed to happen now because when you Google it, you just get news articles of things being canceled. But I believe like end of March was around that time.
You end of March, beginning of April. It's usually mid-April is when I figure stuff comes out of that. I always like that one dropping. E3, which is I think in June. They've gone ahead and called it nixed it, which was probably the farthest thing out at this point, I believe.
Yeah. I would say this was an interesting bit of an announcement because a lot of industry people kind of have this loathing for E3 because they just don't like the vibe of the convention anymore, and they don't like they have to take the time out of their day to go to these things. So I've seen some people happy that E3 has been canceled, and they just want people to do more Nintendo Direct style presentations where they don't have to leave their house to see their video games being announced and released. But yeah, like you said, this was a big one because this is so far out. This is June. This is definitely 100% in summer. People making these big calls, which leads us to a really big question of what's going to happen to Comic-Con. Kind of one of the biggest nerd outings of the entire year could be canceled. It's hard for me to imagine Comic-Con being postponed because it's such a gigantic beast that relies on so much scheduling. I'm imagining a scenario where it gets pushed and just a lot of people just don't show up. A lot of the booths are empty. A lot of big corporations just, we had everything planned for July. Everyone's schedules got moved. We just can't make it. So I could see something as big as Comic-Con just not happening in 2020. Which is nuts considering I think I'm remembering back to our first episode of this calendar year 2020 where we were so optimistic saying, oh, humans just like round numbers, 220s after another. This is going to be our year. And man, just watch all of this stuff just fall out of the sky.
Yeah, and who knows how long this will be affected? June, July. Will we see stuff through that the summer months be affected? On the other side, sports people, the XFL, one of the newer things this year, they've canceled the rest of their season. That's been done. That's not good for a first-time season of a sport. The NCAA tournament was going to be audience-free, and now it's completely postponed or canceled, which... all those marketing things that are out there are just
I only laugh because when I think of tournaments I just think of bookies and people placing bets. And do you think there's just this crazy bet that no one ever takes that says the tournament won't happen? Well, what are the odds on that? Well, I'm giving you like 1 to a billion odds because the odds that the NCAA tournament's not going to happen are just catastrophically infinitesimal. So they're just like, oh yeah, I'll take that bet. Are you sure you want to put $100 down on this bet? Yeah, I'll take it. And then that person just has all of the money now because that bookie's broke. So I guess people, well, if they're gambling addicts, they might save some money this spring.
Yeah, they could. We had literally on Monday set up our office tournament for this, and then on Tuesday it was done. So that didn't go over
Yeah, I mean, if I wanted to be sad and melancholy about it, it wouldn't be very hard. I mean, just imagine all of these students who probably are in their last year of eligibility for playing college ball. They're not going to be able to play this tournament. This is the time where they would really be putting their face out there for recruitment into the NBA, which is a very small pool. I mean, at least with the NFL, you have a lot more players on the field, so there's a lot more positions to be hired for. But man, this is going to suck. And I think a really big open-ended one is the Olympics, another sporting event that literally brings everybody from all of these different continents into one location, which sounds like the worst possible thing to do during a pandemic. My entertainment side of my brain just went off when people have been talking about the Olympics, and I go, oh man, poor Peacock, the streaming service that was launching on the back of the Olympics, hoping people would sign up so they could watch shot put, and now what are they launching with? Like, The Office? You can finally stream The Office again with Peacock? That's a little weak.
No, they want you to, man. They want you to. But I mean, that's the thing. You know, what is this? What does all look? I mean, everyone is just any movie, any TV show productions, done for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. Will they make up this time? Do they already have this built in, or will we see those delays? Because I don't know. It's a very uncertain time, Mike, and it's bothering me.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have to make this recommendation for anybody, that's like under the age of like 20 out there, because they're all doing this anyway. But this is a really, really good time to go out there and start to experiment with YouTube channels, or experiment with Twitch streamers.
With podcasts.
With podcasts. Cough, cough, cough. Because, I mean, these are all individual creators that don't require these big armies of people to show up all in one location to create content. So I've been really enjoying a lot of the podcasts that I listen to, because these small bootstrap teams pulling themselves up, making fun stuff. There's a lot of great YouTube channels that I love that are just small independent people that can just keep cranking out content during this quarantine, which is great. So this is a good opportunity out there if you are financially stable during this crisis, to kind of open up your wallets, go find people's Patreon accounts, go find their coffee pages, which is spelled with a K, and just throw them a couple bucks, encourage them to keep making content. Because even people over on YouTube that rely on ads, I got to imagine that over this quarantine, a lot of ad spending is possibly going to go down. Maybe not for the streaming services, because, man, boy, now is it a time to be a streaming service, because just start pushing that stuff all day. People are nothing but, if at home, ready to watch your content.
Well, it's as a marketing director, my ad spend is definitely being tossed in different directions now, because we focus on horse events, and those horse events may or may not be canceled or pushed back, especially the Kentucky Derby this year, which is one of our biggest things. So, like, I don't know what that looks like yet, but we're going to be figuring it out here. Also, I have to apologize. I'm getting it's a little bit of a noise here. Apparently, someone's mowing or weed eating or pressure washing outside my window. The house next door just went up for sale on Saturday. So there's something going on here that was not going on literally when we started. It sounds like they're weed eating right now. So
that's
I apologize.
All right. We'll add it to the ambiance of the podcast. Yeah. We are real people.
We haven't heard trains in how long, Mike? I mean, years since we had train sounds.
I think people can easily put up with noises in the background as long as they know it's not some sort of a technical issue that we're not aware of. These are outside circumstances. That person should be inside quarantining themselves.
It is 40 degrees outside. Who is mowing their lawn at 40 degrees, Mike?
Get away from that grass. This is don't go inside. Spend time with your family. You might not have them.
No one lives here. I don't know what's happening. It's for sale. So...
Well, go back to your other home. No one's buying houses right now. We're not allowed to go outside.
Yeah, that's the worst time to move. Interest rates are super low, though, if you're thinking about buying. So that's the problem. All right, New Mutants. We were talking about it earlier. I want to just go ahead and throw this out there. The director has been out saying, the movie was about to come out, so they're probably doing pre-press release tours. And now that Antonio Banderas was actually already cast as a sequel in The Villain. So he was going to play Emmanuel de Costa, the father of the character Sunspot, who's actually in the movie, Roberto de Costa. So that'd have been fun to have Antonio Banderas as a villain in a thing.
Yeah, Antonio Banderas, he's a pretty heavy hitter. A lot of people know him by name. Maybe he was too big of a face for New Mutants. I guess possibly the script just took another direction.
There's no sequel. That's why.
Yeah, so so much for Antonio. I love Antonio Banderas. I watched a lot of his version of Zorro back in the day. I think that was either early 2000s or maybe late 90s.
I think late 90s. He was on the back of what was that, the guitar playing Hitman?
Desperado.
Yeah.
Oh man, Antonio Banderas. What a time to watch that movie when you're a child, Desperado, because there is a graphic scene in that film that some little boys might find out if they're truly men when they watch that scene. Well, okay, this show's going off the rails.
All right, that's fine. All right, and on top of that, with New Mutants being canceled, the box office this weekend is looking at a 20 to 22 year low. I was looking at the numbers a second ago. The highest movie this weekend was Onward with like 10.3 million. Right behind it was something else. I don't remember what it was, but then Bloodshot was like 9.3 million. Like nothing's getting hardly over 10 right now. So this is going to be, the next 2 to 3 weeks while theaters are reducing their numbers. I think no one's just going to go out and watch them. So
yeah, I think we'll have kind of more conclusions to draw on next week's episode. Once all the final numbers are out, and we can kind of really take a look at them and analyze it. Because like we said last week, we were still kind of dabbling in this idea of a pandemic. People were still going to the movie theaters. The orders had not come from on high to stay home. So
the toilet paper was still easily available.
Yes, toilet paper was still easy. It was just a different world to be living in. So we're really gonna be analyzing these over the next week.
Yeah, and seeing what the new dates and new schedules are like for everybody. On that note as well, the show Superman and Lois, which is the upcoming spinoff of Supergirl, right? Is actually, the series is going straight to a production. I think they were already ordered to production, but I think they're going to just shoot all the episodes after this delay for making TV shows is done. Up in probably Vancouver? Is that where they're filming these?
Yeah, it's usually either Vancouver or Atlanta, wherever the tax breaks will let them go. But all right, series straight to production after the delay. So
that means they'll be hitting the ground hard.
Yes.
So there's that for us. But on the other side of the CW show, a show that's already been filmed, Stargirl. We got a new trailer for it this week, talking about Destiny, and we were watching this, and this is a fun little trailer. I think the coolest thing is both Wilson brothers are diving into DC streaming shows right now. We have Luke Wilson in this playing the robot piloting stepfather to Stargirl, and then Owen Wilson's over in Loki. But this show again is confirming it's coming out May 11th on DCUniverse, and then May 12th for free.
This whole next day thing has been really in the front of my brain recently, because if you're a subscriber to Hulu out there, since now Disney is the main controller of Hulu, and Disney now also owns Fox, which means they own FX. They just dropped a whole bunch of FX shows on Hulu, which has been great. Because now I can finally watch the most recent season of Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I don't have to wait any longer to see the last season of Archer. But there's been new shows that are now premiering, and they're available the next day on Hulu, which is kind of how old school Hulu used to be. That's how a lot of stuff was, is you just wait the next day and then you get to watch it. So kind of doing the similar thing out there. So it kind of gives me an idea of maybe how HBO Max might be dealing with things moving forward. You might have to watch something maybe broadcast first, but then maybe you can watch the most recent episode of The Flash next day on HBO Max. We'll have to see how that goes.
Yeah, I think that's what Westworld. I think if you have HBO Go, you can watch it the next day, but if you don't have live, you can watch it live. But I think they'll merge them together.
Oh no, HBO itself is actually even better. Okay. They make those stream files available the second it premieres. So that's one of the big reasons why I stopped pirating a few years ago, is because if I wanted to pirate Game of Thrones, I had to watch it an hour after it had aired. But if I just paid for it, if I paid for an HBO Now subscription, what Game of Thrones I think aired technically at 9 p.m. At 9 p.m. which was great because it was 6 p.m. on the West Coast. They unlocked that basically digital file, and I could stream it when everybody else was airing it. So I guess it just depends on what type of content it is, whether it starts at broadcast or whether it starts at streaming. But yeah, if I wanted to watch the premiere of Westworld, I could watch it whenever anybody who has a cable subscription was watching it.
Yeah, so I mean, Stargirl is going to be probably one of those things you can watch it live, and if you don't want to be spoiled, you can watch it live, or you can wait the next day on the CW. But I think this is is this the next Berlanti production coming out that we know of?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, Batwoman's kind of been off to the races for a few months now. So yeah, Stargirl's next.
Perfect. Frozen 2 has been moved up 3 months from its original Disney Plus debut till this weekend. Due to the virus. So
conspiracy theory hat, putting it on right now, Chris. It makes me wonder if it was always going to be like this, or now is the coronavirus the veil of which they put on to make it look like that they're doing everybody a good deed, putting it out there for everybody. Because that was kind of the big question that everybody was asking, right? With Disney Plus out there in the world. And they were really leaning into this. Bob Iger, Kevin Feige, everybody saying Disney Plus, this is a premium service. This isn't just a place where we're dumping stuff. You're going to want this service. So when this was launched in November, just maybe a week or two later, we got Frozen 2 premiering in theaters. So it was kind of the first Disney movie to come out in theaters after Disney Plus existed. So I was watching the release of it just to see how soon would it come to Disney Plus? How is Disney Plus going to be a premium for me? Am I going to be able to watch these movies at home sooner than I would if Disney Plus wasn't a thing that existed in the world? So it makes me wonder, this could have been maybe the plan all along, because it was already released digitally and on Blu-ray. So maybe they have these statistics, they have these sheets of data that said, all right, well, we've already captured the majority of the people that want to own this physically, so now let's just drop it on Disney Plus so we can get some subscribers. We've already recouped our physical sales. Or is this possibly goodwill? Did they want to try to make everybody feel better because they're closing all of the theme parks?
Is it a mixture of both?
Yeah, I mean, that very well could be true.
I think it's a both. I don't think it's a conspiracy that this was always going to be the plan, but they're like, you know what? People who own this have already bought it on digital, right? They have those numbers pretty immediately. Mm-hmm. But this movie came out, I mean, for all intents and purposes, November 22nd, which is, we're coming up on March 22nd. So 4 months, I mean, 1 month of digital release. I mean, you can rent it for $5, or you can just spend that money and get a month of Disney Plus, right?
Yeah.
But if they're my wife's a teacher. Her school is closed for 3 weeks. If these kids are home or these kids are at smaller daycare areas, Disney's a fucking they're the best in their eyes. They're like, hey, they give us something to do. But also, I went to Target the other day to buy some. I bought a video game. You had to kill some time, and you know what I saw the most of everywhere, Mike? Frozen merchandise. merchandise. You will see Frozen toys for the rest of your life. Even last week, I'm pretty sure you opened our show by singing the new Frozen song, the new Let It Go, which is still, I think, funny when Olaf tries to sing it and he's just yelling out of tune, out of key in that show. But I think it's a mixture of both. I don't think it's I don't think it's a conspiracy that everything's going to be moved up 4 months and it's on Disney Plus. Oh. But at the same time, if they think they've already milked the Frozen 2 people for what it's worth, why couldn't they move it up and get some good faith?
Yeah, we're not in hermetically sealed times right now. Like you said, Star Wars was released early too, so the data cannot be separated from the pandemic that's happening right now. So I still have my binoculars strapped around my neck. I will keep looking through them into the future to see if these release dates start to get shorter and shorter and shorter, because I'm really curious. I wouldn't be surprised if they get 85% of their physical sales within the first second that the movie drops, just from people that have already pre-ordered it on iTunes, pre-ordered it on Amazon, pre-ordered it at their local Best Buy. I just feel like all of these sales have just already happened, and they're just like, well, it's just a sloping down line of revenue when it comes to physical stuff. So we might as well try to get new subscribers out of it.
Yeah, they've got I think a lot of people in Frozen 2 are already subscribers. in my head. But the release time every like 2 years they shave a month off of release dates. Because remember Infinity War came out 6 months on physical after it came out in theaters from release day. And this is 4 months. So, I mean, I think it's going to keep getting shorter as we, remove those barriers to entry, if you will. But, I think we're kind of at peak for like 2 years now. 4 months to streaming from release. So, cross your fingers. But, Mike, normally I tell you to take off those binoculars, right? But now I want you to share these binoculars with me. We had a Black Widow trailer that got lost very early on in this week, and we finally got to watch it. And what was cool about this trailer, Mike, and I think you agree, this is the best trailer for this movie. By a long shot.
This makes the movie feel a little bit more grounded. It makes it feel a little bit more like a Jason Bourne movie, like a Mission Impossible movie, maybe even like a James Bond movie. So it just, everything feels a little bit more intimate, but feels a little bit more seedy. It seems like spy movies always feel like more spy-y when they happen like somewhere over in like Europe. There's this really like small scene where just somebody's opening like a like a pantry from probably some sort of like random house out in a village somewhere, and just inside of the pantry I think there's guns, and it's just like this just feels like very spy movie-esque to me.
Yeah, and it's very Eastern European. I think there's also we've seen in other trailers where her and Natasha and Yelena are talking like this. It looks like a single floor. Like something in Italy or something in one of those countries. Yeah,
some sort of like apartment in like Paris,
and where that's like exactly what Jason Bourne was in most of his movies. So,
but it's a good feeling, right? I like the setting so far.
And then we get to see more of Taskmaster's cool stuff. He had the Black Panther claws on his gloves. He did Wakanda Forever, and the claws came out. And then in the middle of this fight with Red Guardian, he does the kick that Spider-Man does, where he kicks him on the chest, backflips into a 3-point pose.
Yeah,
and I'm like, well, that's pretty cool.
I'm really looking forward to how they explain how he got all of his info. Like, the easiest way to do it is he's just on YouTube, just watching videos, and he's ingesting it. But I like the idea of maybe I don't actually want to see him at the airport in Civil War in the background somewhere, and we see like a reverse shot of, he was there the whole time. It doesn't necessarily have to be that, but I like the idea of maybe we see Taskmaster show up at that airport maybe weeks later, and he breaks in and he steals the security footage. I think that could be cool.
Well, you saw in this trailer, you see him watching the Iron Man 2 fight with Black Widow that she does. Like, he's literally watching it on a large screen in front of him. So, I mean, You're pretty much correct. That's what he's doing, is watching all this stuff. And I think someone is feeding him this information. And, again, put my conspiracy hat. I showed Mike some photos from this trailer, right? AIM is in one of these photos. The technology organization created by Aldrich Killian in Iron Man 3 is very much involved with what looks to be a facial removal of Yelena in one of these scenes.
The best part about all this is when Chris is sending me the screenshots, and he's just like, now watch me zoom and enhance. Here's the screenshot. Now I'm sending you another one, Mike. Now what I've done here is I flipped it and I've brightened it. Now I want you to look on the screen here. What do you see? What are those letters? It's just really great. You're really getting into it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's really fun because, again, like, my mind's going crazy. Is AIM, the one feeding Taskmaster? Because it looks like his visor, is Iron Man based. That's his Iron Man tech, and he might be recording the fights, and the computer is giving him this information. Or is Taskmaster Yelena? You never see them in the same scene.
Yeah, we got a whole lot going on here. So first of all, Face Off. If anybody remembers that movie is absolutely ridiculous. Balls to the wall. It's
John Travolta, Nicolas Cage.
High octane face skin removal, and it's just so weird and bizarre. Only a really campy movie like Face Off could pull off literally removing skin on somebody and swapping it with another person. So it makes me wonder if they're gonna pull something like that off in this movie. They gotta have a little bit more tact to it, just because the MCU is obviously they have like the funny one-off like a Marvel banter, but like you gotta take things like face removal a little bit more seriously than a Nicolas Cage movie with John Travolta, a Scientologist, in it. So yeah, it does make me wonder, like, has there been skin removal previous in this story arc and we're just told about it, so it's been really built up, and then she's finally on a table and she has the Sharpie marks on her face, so we think it's about to happen, and then somebody swoops in and save her, so we never actually see skin being peeled. But yes, big question is, if this is supposedly the final trailer, Taskmaster has not been revealed to sell more tickets, so that's not a gimmick that they were waiting for the final trailer for. So it really makes me wonder, there's going to be a reveal here. What is it going to be? And is this movie even going to come out? Because it's coming out May 1st, I think
April 24th, actually, so it's a little sooner.
So I mean, the status of it right now is that it's still coming out, but who knows? Things are still developing. We still might not get a chance to see this movie when it comes out. But I forgot to mention this before when we were talking about the New Mutants being delayed. We were trying to figure it out internally how we were going to review it, because I was actually going to be out of town that weekend when the movie came out, and I might not be around to review it. Chris may have had to bring in a ringer to replace me, but the movie's been delayed, so I don't have to worry about it right now. But who knows? I might not even be going out of town now due to the foreseen circumstances. So everything is in flux. You can't schedule anything anymore.
We don't even know where we're going, Mike, at this point. But even though Loki has stopped filming, I do have some casting news for Loki on top of all this.
Okay. Shifting
gears a little bit, Richard E. Grant was cast in this film. Are you familiar with this guy with, he looks like if the guy who played Tarkin was still alive, this guy could be a shoe-in for Tarkin.
I mean, he definitely has a familiar face. He, if you were looking at him as like, oh, he's probably been like a bad guy in something that I've watched, or like somebody's boss. He has a familiar face.
Well, exactly. He was in Rise of Skywalker. He's the guy who shot General Hux.
Okay.
In that, and I'm pretty sure he was the bad guy in Logan. If you remember, he was the guy who was collecting all the blood from all the mutants.
Yeah, yep. That's why he looks like a bad guy.
Yeah, he's very much a bad guy all the time. He has been cast in Loki. Rumor is that he could be Kang. If you're going to imagine a version of Kang,
yes, I could see that. We here at the podcast, we love Kang because we love Earth's Mightiest Heroes, which is streaming now on Disney Plus. So go watch that if you're being quarantined and get up to date with a little bit of Kang knowledge. But man, Kang, I'm so excited if we were actually getting Kang and Loki.
Yeah, exactly. And this guy looks he could totally fill that part as like some monologuing villain who thinks he's doing the right thing by changing time to his favor. So. I could see it, but Richard E. Grant, notorious cast as bad guy actor, going to be in Loki as well. Next year, if we ever get there at this rate, Spider-Man 3 will be coming out. The third Spider-Man in the Marvel MCU trilogy, and filming starts in July in Atlanta this year.
Atlanta, where they've all filmed, so no speculation here about the Atlanta skyline or if Spider-Man's going to be on a class trip to Atlanta. Everything's filmed in a giant hangar down there anyway. There's hardly ever real sets anymore.
My favorite meme so far is the quarantine. It's Spider-Man Work From Home is the next movie title.
That's a good one. I like that.
Yeah, it's pretty good. So what's crazy about Spider-Man in 3 to me, Mike? We hear when someone has joined to write a movie, or the movie script is complete, or all the time. I've not heard a single thing about Spider-Man. Like,
that's
this thing
true.
just pops up, and it's like, yeah, we're filming in July. I'm like, I hope they have a good story. I hope they have a good cast. Who's it going to be? Is this the Craven movie we're getting? Is this Green Goblin again for the third time? I don't know what's happening. Please give us something good out of this Spider-Man movie. And every time, they've been pretty good, Mike. Like, even Far From Home had a great Mysterio. Homecoming, that was your favorite
great
movie.
Vulture.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, and what are we gonna get? Is the Scorpion gonna come back from Homecoming? That actor seems to be on Twitter quite a bit, posting a Scorpion emoji. So, I don't know if that's like, hey, cast me. Hey, don't forget I'm here or what, But in other Spider-Man news that's equally and oppositely as bad, the Spider-Man spin-off movie we talked about a couple weeks ago has gotten Amazing Spider-Man 2 writer Robert Orci, who also is known for writing Fringe, which people like, but not Amazing Spider-Man 2, people don't like, to write it. So
I I'll be nice here and I won't hold too much against it, because when it comes to writing and like feature film, you never know what's going to happen to that script once they're actually done being paid to write it, and then it goes into executive producers' hands, goes into directors' hands. You just never know how many rewrites it's going to have, how many people were paid to rewrite it that don't get, credited, where all the punch-up comes from. There's just so many cooks into the kitchen when it comes to a film story. Now, like you said, people liked Fringe. Fringe is a television show, very much a writer's medium, where there are indeed notes from studio heads, but if you can't just rewrite a whole script like every single week, it could happen every once in a while, but it's more of a writer driven show. So even though I'm not a big fan of the Amazing Spider-Man 2's story at all, I'm going to go ahead and chalk it up just to the movie machine. So I'll give him a pass, and my caution flag is not being raised right now.
Mine is horribly raised. I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 tried to do too much. We had a Green Goblin and an Electro as the villains. The Electro was not believable at all. And then do you not remember the end scene where they're like, here's like the frozen head of your dad who died and all these other stupid
I remember all of it, but who do we blame? Do we possibly blame Mark Webb, who's the director that sets the tone for all this movie? The writer definitely did not show up on scene and tell Jamie Foxx to act like that. Well, that was either Jamie Foxx's decision or it was the director's decision. So all I'm saying is there's a lot of steps in between the script and what gets onto the camera. Well, so that's the only reason. That's why I'm saying just the caution flag is not raised. I'm not saying I don't own the caution flag still. I'm looking at it. It's on the ground right now. I could grab it if I wanted to. It's just not being raised at the moment.
Did you like Transformers Revenge of the Fallen?
I don't think I ever saw it.
The second Star Trek movie, Into Darkness, where it wasn't Khan, but it totally was Khan.
It wasn't that bad. But
The Mummy from 2017 with Tom Cruise.
Well, I didn't watch that.
Yeah, no. Exactly. Okay, this guy sucks. I'm just going to be honest with everybody here. I'm going to show my cards early. But, again, how much of the... I think Sony is a studio interference. Like, any movie they do is studio interference through and through. Will they interfere or will they take a Marvel approach? What will they do here and what will we see? So, I mean, we'll have to play this one by ear, but damn, that doesn't give me any hope at all.
This is strange. Usually I'm the alarmist and you're the one talking me down from the edge.
Yeah, nope, I'm so on the edge on this one.
Do you have a temperature? Are you coughing? What symptoms do you have right now, Chris?
Amazing Spider-Man 2 just sucks so hard, man. It came out in the middle of the Winter Soldier and Guardians of the Galaxy, and I'm like, this isn't helping its case anymore either. So, either way, yeah. We can look forward to maybe visiting Avengers Campus if it ever opens as well. July 18th at Disneyland in California. Kevin Feige calls it the next progression in Marvel storytelling, which does not make it the MCU. He's just the head of Marvel now, so he has to say that. But there are 5 addresses, they said. The Avengers location, the Spider-Man location, the Ant-Man location, which I believe is the Eatery, a Doctor Strange location, and the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I believe is already there with the old Tower of Terror. Right. Yeah,
they released a lot of concept art when this announcement came out earlier this week. And then obviously it got covered up by all of the world news that happened. But I don't know. I'm not as plussed on this as I wanted to be, just because a lot of the things that they're doing, the reason why all of this stuff could possibly come in July is because they're not really doing anything gigantic. They're not building a Galaxy's Edge where they have to build these giant mountain rock faces that block out the view of the rest of Anaheim in the real world. They don't have to kind of create all of this stuff from the ground up, make these huge giant rides. Really, the only additional ride I believe that we're getting is a Spider-Man ride, which seems to be a very much on rails type of situation where it sounds cool. You're supposed to apparently be able to shoot webs from your hands, and all you have to do is wear 3D glasses. So I don't know what's going on here. There could be some really crazy Imagineering happen with like eye tracking and tracking each of the ride person's hands. So I'm really curious how that's going to happen.
Have you done the Toy Story ride where you shoot the balls and the hoops and the stuff?
What
was it called? Toy Story Mania?
No, I haven't done Toy Story Mania, but I've done the Buzz Lightyear one, which is a little bit more analog.
It's the same thing. I'm pretty sure it's the same exact thing. But this is going to be more of a, hey, we don't have to have the gun on the thing. Technology is fast forwarded 20 years, and we can just put something on your wrist that makes you look like you're swinging webs.
Yeah, so I mean, I'm sure it'll be a fun ride, but it's not really adding a whole lot to Disney California Adventure, where this is coming from. Some of the other stuff looks cool, like the Ant-Man food thing. I was looking at the concept art. Looks like there's some fun things happening while you're waiting in line. There's a line of pretzels that are being carted along the ceiling, and then it goes through some sort of Pym particle machine, and then they become big giant soft pretzels. And then if you actually buy the soft pretzel, there's one of those little discs of that Ant-Man throws around that's wedged in it, so you have this little collectible to go with it. So there's lots of really fun stuff here, but I guess people, I would say, don't get too excited if you're visiting the park. This isn't going to be a Galaxy's Edge style of experience. This is going to be a little bit smaller, but I'm guessing it's better than nothing, and then of course they can iterate on it in the future, which is kind of what they've done with Galaxy's Edge. The newest big ride just opened up a few weeks ago. I talked to somebody that went to it. It was incredibly long wait. They arrived at 8 a.m. in the morning, and they didn't get a chance to ride it until 11 p.m. at night, which they had to make advanced exemptions for people to be in the park later to ride the ride. But I didn't know this. The ride is 20 minutes long. It's a 20-minute adventure that you're in. This ain't no roller coaster that happens for 90 seconds or some sort of flight experience that's 2 minutes long. It's a 20-minute ride, and they said it was really cool. And I told them not to spoil it for me, but they said they kind of explained it. They said there's lots of live casts that are in the ride, so it kind of reminds me of maybe a haunted house-esque experience where you're not necessarily being scared, but as you move throughout the ride, there's different people posted doing different roles. So lots of shit happening at Disneyland, but it's just not open right now.
I'm on the other end. I think this is bigger than Star Wars. Star Wars is an experience, but until they get their hotel done, I think this is actually bigger because it only has 2 rides, right? The Falcon ride and then the one you talked about. What else?
Yeah.
And then you can build a lightsaber, which I'm thinking about taking a day and going and building a lightsaber. But what else does Star Wars offer that Marvel doesn't? Marvel's got 4 things. I know one of them's an eatery, but I guess maybe it's because I think there's more there. They have 16 heroes on hand every day to meet and pose for pictures. Do they have that for Star Wars? I mean, I know they have the Kylo Ren thing and whatever.
Yeah, they do the same thing over at Star Wars. They really put a lot of cast members out there and have them roaming around. I'm not trying to hate on it for sure, but to me it seems slightly smaller. But I'm still gonna go. I'm still gonna love it. It's gonna be great. I'm really curious what this spider bot is supposed to be that flies through the air that looks like Spider-Man swinging. I really want to know what that looks like and how they accomplish it. You can build you can build lightsabers in Star Wars Land. You're supposed to be able to purchase an RC spider bot in the land, and the spider bots kind of look cool. They kind of look similar, they have some sort of Iron Man tech-esque aesthetic to them. So there'll be lots of ways to spend your money over there.
Yeah, sign me up. I want to check that out. I'll never go to Florida, so I'll have to come out to California, Mike. Lastly, we talked about this at the beginning. Westworld Season 3 is on tonight, Sunday night. So if you're looking for a new show and you haven't caught up, I'm a big fan of Westworld. It's one of my favorite things to watch on HBO, and we haven't had anything really new to mind-blowing. I've been watching Picard, and that's only got 2 episodes left, so Westworld's something to really get the conspiracy theory juices flowing, Mike, because they will throw you for a loop in this show, and you know it. So, you plan on catching up on Season 2, you said, maybe?
Well, it sounds like I got the time, Chris.
Well, you got the time. Now you just need the HBO.
Yep.
You probably have that already, too.
Yep.
So there we go. Well, that's it for the news this week. We somehow managed to make a longer episode than usual out of less news than usual, Mike. We are magical podcast hosts, I'll tell you that.
Well, when you got a pandemic to talk about, you can fill time, that's for sure.
We spent more time talking about things canceled than things actually happening, so that's always fun. But if people want to know what you're up to, how you're spending your free time, and how you're getting about, how can people find you?
Well, they can follow me at Mike Royer Design on Instagram and Twitter, and you can read my webcomics at pickledcomics.com. Chris, if people want to catch up with you, see how you're surviving the pandemic, where can they find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Valdan87, or over on Twitter, Valdan, VALDAN. Hit me up on there. I don't think I'm going to be as quarantined as everybody else, sadly, but I'm going to still be using this time to, I don't know, spring's here, maybe watch new things, learn a new trick or two. I can't tell you. But you can also head over to Comic UI. I think you don't even know this yet, Mike. I'm actually redoing that a little bit. I'm going to be picking that back up in the future. So because I need a hobby, man. I need a hobby band. Yeah, you can do that. If people want to know what we're up to, what we're doing, I guess I'll have to update our upcoming release schedules once they give us new dates for our next review episode. But where can people find more of us at?
Well, all you got to do is visit superheroslate.com. That is the best place to find all the avenues we host our show and to get our awesome show notes. So if you want a list of all those cancellations, please hit up our show notes. You can see them there. We got links to that new Black Widow trailer. You got to check that out because Chris has conspiracy theories, so you're going to want to go ahead and pause and go through that trailer. What is it? It's the comma and the period on the keyboard that lets you go frame by frame on YouTube?
If you have the plugin installed, yes.
I actually don't even think you need a plugin, actually. I think that might be native now to YouTube. So if you need to go frame by frame, give that a shot and tell Chris if he's crazy or if you agree with him. So you can find us on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Spotify, wherever else you like to listen to fine podcasts. You can get us there. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. And we got merch over at superheroslate.com/store. We love hearing from you. What are some of your pandemic tips and tricks that you'd like us to share on the show with our listeners? Let us know. We'll share those for sure. And if you want to be a super fan of this show, all you got to do is wash your frickin' hands. Wash your hands, and we will consider you a super fan of the show. You got to do it for the appropriate 20 seconds, though. If you're not doing it for 20 seconds, you're not doing it right. So wash your hands, stay subscribed, and we'll be back next week.
Yes, we will. I also did confirm it is comma and period. Mike is correct. It is built in natively. We will see you guys next week.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Thanks for listening, and don't forget to subscribe.
I love the way that you're describing drinking it because I'm sure it sounds like the opposite of everything I've known about sake.